Hi everybody, welcome to Patrick's Scale Studio. My name's Patrick, I'll be your host. In the review video for USS Fletcher DD-445 and 1/200 scale by Trumpeter, I had said I hope to make a start on this kit very soon because I've very much been looking forward to getting this kit and kind of looking it over and getting it put together. My last ship, USS Curtis Wilbur, was a destroyer. This is a destroyer. Why not? World War II heritage, in fact. So I just wanted to get a good start on it and talk about beginning steps. Beginning steps here on the very first page, step 1 and 2. Step 1, putting together rudders, or the rudder, and step 2 looks like decaling the deck and getting the deck glued down into the hull, and then getting the propeller and the shaft and its supports put into place here. That's kind of where we'll begin because this is also going to entail some painting. If we're going to put down decals, then we definitely want to get that deck painted first. So kind of started thinking ahead here on how we're going to go about getting the hull prepared and how we're going to get the paints. So currently for my mounts, I'm going to have, I believe it's 14 inches. I'm checking with my daughter. She works at Michael's, so she's able to get these wonderful little pine boards. I used something similar in Curtis Wilbur, but it was 24 inches long because Curtis Wilbur was 30 inches long. This Fletcher's only 22. So you can see these are, there you get two of these brass pedestals. Wrap these back up. And if you are following along and want the same thing, I must warn you, cannot find these on Amazon currently just due to the tariff thing going on with China, because these are made in China. So you would have to go to Etsy if someone on Etsy carried them, or you'd have to go into eBay, somewhere like that, where you might be able to find a third-party retailer other than Amazon who's getting these directly from China. Other first beginning steps here is going to be picking out colors that match this chart. I'm not going to really go off of exactly what they say. It hasn't worked for me in the past, and I'm not about to start going off of it now. So for like the whole red color where they call for cocoa brown, I'm going to be using, it is XF9, but it's whole red, it's not cocoa brown. I'm going to be using just right here for that, but just similar to Curtis Wilbur, I'm going to be mixing up a little bit of that shade with a little brighter red to try to highlight some areas in there and kind of give a little tonal variation and some depth. So for the dark blue right there, they call it navy blue. That's a spray can for, to me, I'm not going to be doing that. In fact, I found its equivalent, which is sea blue XF17. Now if you look at the bottom, that is damn near black, but it's just a super, super, super dark blue. In fact, the only way you can really distinguish it is if you put it next to a black. And it still might not show up real well on camera. My left hand is the semi-gloss black and right hand is the XF17 sea blue. Probably might lighten this up a little bit, but that might be like a filter down the road after we get all of the main colors applied. For the boot stripe right here, we're going to go with the absolute black, not NATO black or a lighter variation of black, because it's going to be right up against this super dark blue, and I'd like for that to stand out, not just kind of disappear as a dark gray. And then we've got for our ocean gray, XF24, which is dark gray. It's a very nice dark shade, and I think it'll do nicely right there for all this dark gray here and the dark gray camouflage moving up. Additionally, it is going to be the main deck color. as you can also see, on top of the 5-inch gun mounts and you know, all the various decks and everything like that. So, and then lastly, as far as main colors go, for our dark gray right there, what they've got right there and is the lighter shade, is going to be medium sea gray 2 parentheses RAF, and that's just XF83. I like the color when it comes to that. If you compare it right next to that, I like how it looks. It looks like it's got a good tone. So I also went ahead and put those shades into the inside of a hole where you're not going to see it, just so I can kind of compare them next to one another. And that right there is that sea blue, which is the XF17. That right there is the dark gray, which is the XF24. And this right here is the medium sea gray 2 RAF, right there, sorry, XF83. So those are the main colors I'm going to be using here when I get to painting Fletcher. So actual first construction steps though are going to be getting rid of this seam right here, these sprue gates. There's some seam line back here because this was slide molded, and this maybe not so much. Maybe that's just part of the plating, but that is definitely a seam. There's a seam, there's a seam. So we will deal with that seam line right there, and then it'll be on to putting in place our propeller shaft, the propeller shaft support, and then the propeller, which we'll paint separately, and we'll paint in a more of like a bronze color. They say gold on those instructions, but I don't think so. I think it's going to be more of a bronze color. One of the things that I'm going to have to do before I actually look into getting that seam line here sanded away is getting my holes drilled and getting those nuts mounted inside so I can get this mounted the way I want it to be mounted. So currently this is, I believe, yep, 14-inch, kind of a what they call an innkeeper plaque or something like that. 14 inches long. I am going to mount these posts roughly 6 inches on center, with gives it about 3.5 inches. Oh, no, I said that wrong. 4 inches, and 4 inches from each end. So I'm going to find the midpoint on this and then measure 3 inches outward so I can get the holes drilled. After I get the holes drilled, then I will go ahead and start working on getting this cleaned up. So I'm going to go ahead and work on tackling that next. And I'll just have you come along with me on this. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead here and put this at the very end. And that gives us roughly 22 and 5/8 inches long. So half of 22 and 5/8 is 11 and 5/16. I'm going to measure in 11 and 5/16 here from the end. And it actually will be a little bit easier. I got a little frazzled there, and then I remembered that this is laying on a gigantic grid of squares. So 11 and 5/16 I have aligned with the 34 centimeter mark. So if I keep that in mind here, and again I try to get this matched up on the very end, 34 centimeters right here. So that is going to fall roughly There's benefits to doing stuff on camera because I can kind of look and see without altering my perception, and this is directly underneath the lens. So right here is our midway point. Alright, and that is a pen, but don't worry, it's going to be getting sanded out. And so now at this point, what I'm going to be doing, this is actually still fairly straight, fairly flat, so I don't have any qualms with just measuring on the bottom like this. But I'm going to go 3 inches to each side. Alright, so that right there is where I'm going to drill holes that will accommodate these bolts that are meant specifically for these brass posts. These right here will get epoxied in here at those junctures right there. And I'll probably brace them up with some milliput or something like I did with USS Curtis Welber, just to make sure that they are not going to spin. And then, you know, a little super glue or a little bit of epoxy, again, just a really good physical bracing on these right here so they don't break free and start spinning or anything like that. But the idea then is, if those are there and there's a hole through it, yeah, I've got this right here, that'll connect up there, and then this screw will be, the bottom of the head of this screw will be underneath that innkeeper sign or innkeeper board or whatever you want to call it. Yeah, go ahead, and I'm going to get these drilled off of camera, and I'm going to drill the holes into the, well, you know what, I guess we need to go ahead and get this measured out as well. So go ahead and do that on camera too. Alright, so first things first, we'll go ahead and we're going to drill from the top down. Last time when I drilled from the bottom up, it gouged out little splinters of wood, and I had to conceal those with rope, and I was going to put the rope down anyway at the base of these, but I would prefer it still to be drilled through cleanly versus me having to find a way of covering it up, because the potential, since this is pine, is for that splinter to be a lot bigger than I really want it to be. So we will go ahead and do it like this. Alright, so this does not have to be 100%. We've got 5 and 2/10. So I'm going to go ahead and, let's see, 2 1/2, 1/10 right there, or 2 6/10. Gosh, sometimes, even though I understand myself, I don't understand myself. So again, 2 inches and 6/10. All right, here we go. Now, and across with this, and I'm going to just use a quick pen. Again, all of this is going to get sanded and cleaned up, so this will not show through. Oh, sorry about that. Alright, so you can see there's a very, very fine line there. Alright, and if I measure from the very end, alright, switching from tenths to the standard, we've got 13 1/4. 13 1/4. So it's going to give us 6 1/8. Right there is their center. And we'll measure 3 off from that. Alright, right there, that is where we're drilling in here. I've got the spots marked and where I'm drilling through on the hull of USS Fletcher. I'll be back when those holes are done. Okay, well, we went ahead and got the holes drilled. Match up just perfectly with the base that this is eventually going to be mounting on. And on the other side, I countersunk where the screw heads are going to sit. So the finished product should be something like this. Come on. All right, washer. All right, so there we go. And then, of course, these will just go on there like so. But it'll look something like, ta-da! All right. And this is mounted far up enough that it doesn't really look that bad, despite the fact that the bottom of this hole is not really flat. They're just, those will be mounted in just such a spot where it's not going to look out of place or bad. But for the time being, I don't know why I was going to put that back on there. We are going to go back to using these right here as temporary supports while working on this. And if I go ahead and get this pushed down enough, there will be very little rocking laterally. And again, the name of the game here is getting these put into place inside the hole and getting them glued down. As you can see, I mean, that's just barely finger tight, and there's already very little movement here. And it'll only get better. And no, does not look like there's any point where that is going to affect the deck being laid down. And furthermore, it'll even be better after these are in, because these are quite a bit higher, as you can see, than those foam blocks. So that is our mounting strategy. So I'm going to go ahead and get to work here getting these put into place with a little bit of epoxy, and then we will go into some hyperspeed mode sanding on that seam on the bottom. And that might actually even just wrap it up for the day. We'll see. Okay, now that all of the sanding has been completed here, figured I would show off, if you hadn't already caught a hint of this, of what I put in the middle or on the inside of this hole to hold these nuts in place. As you can see, I just kind of cut some hexagonal shapes out of some pretty thick styrene, and put a couple little pieces down here to keep this from twisting, both spots, and then I cemented that in place. So now this is going to be ready to mount to our build plate. But before we do so, we're going to go ahead and get this built up and then probably call it quits. And when I say get this built up, apologies, I mean the propeller shafts and the struts for that. And then next video we will get into getting everything painted and put into its proper color scheme. So stay tuned while I get the parts ready so we can go ahead and get those put in place. Alrighty, well, I got all the parts taken off their screws and all cleaned up. This is not cemented into place or anything like that. I just wanted to check on its fit. Fits pretty good. Just kind of, it's a matter of kind of getting everything into place a little bit by a little bit. So as you can see, you got that in there. Now that's it. I even really like how close up and form-fitting this is right here, where the propeller shaft housing comes out of the hull. Very nice, very, very nice. So we'll go ahead and fit this one in here as well, just to double check. The fit here has been wonderful. The cleanup itself was not wonderful. These parts were kind of a bear. These right here were even worse, and then these right here, there's kind of a large sprue gate on one side of each of these right here, and that was kind of difficult also to get handled properly. There's also a slight seam right here running up and down each shaft, but we got those handled. So that's how those look. Now this right here was a bit of a challenge as well, but I got it figured out. What I found is the way the fit was on this is it was too tight, and so this would keep, if you get it kind of put in there, it would slip off from one side to the other. And there's no locating pins or anything like that. Just this little bump out right here, this tab that's kind of supposed to represent the hinge. So it's kind of a loose fit, but that's okay. At least I know it won't like ping off into one side and cause some kind of a very uneven look here to it. So I'm going to go ahead and get these things, this and this, all glued up off of camera. We'll come back when everything is in place. While I'm waiting for some of those parts to firm up here in place, I figured I would take a moment to show off what I was going to use and might have to look for a replacement for. World War II USN anchor for destroyer that are with chain for the U.S. Navy by HS models. It's not supposed to come like this. I think the postman or someone at the post office took the entire box that it came in and just stomped on it and jumped up and down on it as hard as they could, because this is how it came. That's how it came when I got it. So I was really, really not happy, and in fact, the contents, this is the chain side of it, and this is the anchor side of it. As you can see, just decimated. Absolutely decimated. But we'll probably see if I can find a replacement for this. In the meantime, I did order this stuff from Sprue Brothers, and when you order from them, it comes with a service called Route that kind of ensures your package. So the other thing I got, which was in slightly better shape, was the twin Bofors. And I really only need one of the twin Bofors and its fire director. The set comes with 4 of them. But I will show one half of the package was in great shape, as you can see here. And the detail on that is absolutely staggering. So that's definitely going to add a nice bit of detail to the finished model, and allow me to, you know, when I get a little dry brushing on that, it's going to really make everything pop. So at least I'll be able to use that. But I did get refunded that the route service that comes with the shipment, and Sprue Brothers recognized that both pieces technically were damaged. There was the second half of that, and definitely some parts were missing. Since both bundles there were damaged, really beyond anything usable for you know, what the kit's supposed to entail, they'll just refund everything to me, and I will have to go see if I can source more chain. Okay, everything has been cemented in place, and I've cleaned up all the little cement areas as best I could with some 1000 grit sanding sponge, so everything looks nice and smooth. Looks like it belongs all in one piece. So I'm very, very happy with how that turned out. So I think, not in this video, but our next steps are going to be checking the fit of the deck and getting things painted. So that should be a lot of fun. I'm going to have to take that painting guide provided by Trumpeter. I'm going to have to scan that, and then I'm going to have to enlarge that to this right here, so I can kind of copy down the little masking pieces, and possibly also where the water line is, after I kind of double check where that bootstrap and water line are, you know, compared to all the references of the real thing. But that is going to do it for this first installment, folks. Put this down. Righty. Well, I hope you'll stay tuned with me for the build of the entire thing. If you have any comments, questions, or concerns, please leave those in the remarks below this video. And thank you very much for watching. Stay safe. Happy modeling.